It's the greatest mystery in literary history. A divisive question with highly contested answers. Who was the writer behind the pen name William Shakespeare? Welcome to Don't Quill the Messenger. Here's your host, Stephen Sable.
Welcome back, fellow Quillers. Thank you so much for being here. It's always a joy to have you join us for a new episode of Don't Quill the Messenger. Today, we invite back one of our previous guests. You all know him. You know him because he's been on a couple of different times, most recently because of his book that he wrote that kind of crushed the world of academia. But now he's here for a different reason because he has a new title and a new post, and he's going to tell us all about it. He is Michael Dudley. Michael, welcome back.
Thank you very much, Stephen. It's great to be back.
Before we dive into your new post, your new job, give us a quick update on the book. Remind everybody of the title, where they can find it, and tell us how it's going and how it was received.
Yes, glad to. So the book I published in the fall of 2023 is the Shakespeare Authorship Question and Philosophy, Knowledge, Rhetoric, Identity. It was published by Cambridge Scholars Publishing in the UK, not Cambridge University, but Cambridge Scholars. And it was, most academic publishing, there's a big surge of interest when it comes out and, lots of sales up front. So I haven't gotten a second royalty check. I don't know how it's been doing the last year or two, but there is going to be a review of it in the journal Philosophy and Literature, a review by Dr. Lyle Colombo. And it's a joint review. I'm really honored and excited by this because it's a review of Elizabeth Winkler's Shakespeare Was a Woman and Other Heresies. So she reviewed her book and mine together. So that's great. I think that should be out on the website of Philosophy and Literature any day now, because they did publish their last volume last June of 2025. So I keep checking every day.
Well, that's pretty good company to be in with Elizabeth and her book.
Yes, I was honored. But I think the project of writing the book and then promoting it afterwards really set me up well, I think, for my new role. I'm not sure that I would have been chosen to be editor of the Oxfordian if I hadn't published the book. So it was it's been a really exciting arc, even since I published the book and moved on to some other writing, but then surging back to focus on the new role.
Well, hopefully this new review, I think I love it that this doctor, I'm assuming PhD doctor, has chosen to review Elizabeth's book and your book, because I think in the world of Oxfordian publications, if we can really call, I don't know if we can really call Elizabeth's book an Oxfordian publication, but let's call it, in the world of the publications of skepticism of the traditional orthodoxy of the Shakespeare myth, I think those two books are a great compendium. One sort of Elizabeth tells us her personal journey through discovering how, strange it is that these great scholars and scholarly minds will cleave to these stories that they can't really provide any depth or proof to and can't truly intellectually verify. And then there's your book that basically says, here's what's wrong with all of this mythology is you can't truly intellectually verify. I think they actually go really well together.
Yeah, I think so. Thank you. And it's I'm not sure what to add to that, but I think what I ultimately saw my book as, again, you were saying Elizabeth's book wasn't strictly speaking an Oxfordian book. I looked at my book as kind of a case study in epistemology and academia, in that the Shakespeare authorship question and the debate over it provides such a clear example of epistemic and institutional failure, and that the rhetoric around that particular debate can be applied to other controversial questions where conventional viewpoints dominate, and that anybody who anyone who dissents against that conventional view is called a conspiracy theorist and just dismissed out of hand. And so, yeah, the afterword of my book, I set out, sort of some generalizable principles that one can use when dealing with other debates in the academy and in public policy.
Well, I know when we spoke last about it, you talked about what a labor of love it had been and how much work that it required in order to get it all together and then get it edited. I know the editing process can be, every writer who has been a guest on the program talks about the editing process, like having gone to the dentist every day for a year or more,
Yeah.
So you got your feet wet, so to speak. You sort of sharpened your claws, but it didn't deter you. It didn't make you say, okay, that's it, I'm done with that, no more of this. In fact, instead, it appears that you have chosen to dive right into a similar role that is more open-ended as well, because the Oxfordian is now in, I don't know, it's 27th, 28th edition.
We're putting together volume 28 right now.
Yeah, see, that's what I thought. And for those who are listening who aren't aware of what the Oxfordian is, affectionately known as TOX,
yes,
it is the annual publication of works and research and essays by those who submit to, and I assume, and you'll explain to us how this all works, but I assume to you now. And then that's sort of, that collection is curated every year and then published by the Shakespeare Oxford Fellowship, and then produced and put out there into the world for people to consume. Yeah.
Right. So yes, the first volume was published in 1998, and we've made a number of interesting changes already. I've been working with the editorial advisory board, and one of the first things that we did is that we've changed the title a bit. The Oxfordian as a title, I argued to the board, has no resonance for people who are uninitiated with the authorship question. It just doesn't mean anything.
I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with a very very learned art history professor, and I was telling him about being the editor and that it was dealing with the Shakespeare authorship question. And he said, "Oh, that's great, but why is it called the Oxfordian?" And it's like people think that it might have something to do with Oxford University, or it's an alumni magazine or something. So what I propose is that, and this is reflected on the website now, it's the Oxfordian, a journal of Shakespeare authorship studies. So that makes...
So there's a sort of a subtitle, but I don't know that really helps the case then, does it? Because, now I have to dig that much deeper in order to read that extra subtitle.
Well, it's going to be picked up, the algorithm, Google Scholar, that having Shakespeare in the title is going to make the journal more discoverable. And then I think it's more intuitive that the journal is dealing with that subject matter. So we have a new aims statement on the website. We adjusted the scope statement as well. So that was a good beginning, but there are a number of other things that I'm hoping to do with the journal over the next year.
Well, now let me ask you a question. So,
yeah.
Excuse me. When you submitted, and I know I remember seeing that a call went out for new editors. The long-time editor, I want to say he was there for more than a decade, 12 or 13 years.
Gary Goldstein, 2017 to 2025, so 8 years.
Okay, 8 years. So I aged him a little extra. Sorry, Gary. So, he decided it was time to step away, and they put out the call for people. And I don't know how many people submitted an application to take over this role. But when you decided to do that, did you include these proposed changes in sort of your like cover letter or your like presentation to the board, or did you kind of keep your cards close to your chest and wait until they had awarded you the title and then came in with guns blazing on changes you wanted to make?
No, actually, when I met with the hiring committee over Zoom, I laid out, I'm a librarian, an academic librarian, and one of the things that we do when we're dealing with library boards and so on is, and this is very common in business as well, is you do a SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And so that's what I did in my interview for the job, is that I did a presentation based on a SWOT analysis, saying what the strengths of the journal were, but the weaknesses, and one being the title, but also I did a quick sample of Google Scholar citations and found that there's almost no scholarly impact of the journal on Google Scholar. So I started with a 2016 issue. Let's go back 10 years. And, the one article had 3 citations, all by other Oxfordians. Another article, 0 citations. 0 citations. Like if you go down the list and nobody is citing Oxfordian articles outside of fellow Oxfordians. Even if you go back to the very first volume, 1998, this is going back 28 years, and again, almost there's a few that got cited, but again, mostly by other Oxfordians. And I determined that the biggest impediment to the Oxfordian being discovered by interested researchers is the website itself. And I talked about this in my interview, is that the Oxfordian website is not what's called in web design crawlable. Google Scholar cannot crawl the website of the Shakespeare Oxford Fellowship, the page dedicated to the Oxfordian. I mean, it's very convenient for a user to go and you see volume 1, 2, 3, etc., and you click on it. You click on that and you get you see all of the articles as hot links. You then click on those links and you get the PDF, the portable document file of that article. What I discovered, because I'm not a web designer, I had to research this, and it turns out that a crawlable web design would be like if you look at online journals, that you've got the homepage for their journal, then you've got each volume listed. You click on the volume, that comes up, and then you see all of the articles. You click on an article, it comes up with its own page for that article with the abstract and the keywords and information about the author and metrics, how many times that article has been cited. And then you have access to the PDF. You click on that, then you get the article.
That's downloadable, right? Then at that point.
That's downloadable, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah,
Google Scholar needs to crawl the home page, the volume page, the article page, etc. Then it can create an actual searchable citation with metadata and so on.
I have fallen in love with academia.edu as a source of finding wonderful articles about Shakespeare authorship, about Shakespeare theory. And it is
and they frequently come up.
Yes, they do. And
in results in Google Scholar.
It's a way that I have been able to reach out to a number of very interesting guests that we've had over the last couple of years. I love that site, and that site is designed exactly as you just described, and that makes total sense to me now why those articles show up in my feed, because now, I've been tracked, right? So now Google says, you are interested in this. Here's another one.
Right.
which is great for me because it, often will send me an article by someone that I hadn't seen before, that I didn't know about. And then I read it and I reach out to the person who wrote it and say, hey, would you like to be a guest? Because this is very intriguing research.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So you're spot on.
And yeah, the hiring committee was really, shocked and dismayed that this is the state of affairs.
Well, no one wants to be told that for 28 years you've been preaching to the choir and no one else is noticing.
Yeah.
I mean, let's put it bluntly. That's basically what you came back and told them is, hey, you guys have been putting in all this work and you're basically creating an annual missal that only the congregation is reading on Sunday mornings and no one else is seeing it.
Exactly. Yeah. So what I was hoping to have been able to propose this to the Board of Trustees of the Shakespeare Oxford Fellowship, but I would like to look at migrating the journal to be an actual open access journal. There's tens of thousands of open access journals out there, but the ecosystem is very well established, very robust. It would put the Oxfordian within that ecosystem. So anyone doing a search within, for example, the directory of open access journals for Shakespeare, our articles in the Oxfordian would show up in those results. So that is something I'm hoping to do within the next month, is to make an actual formal case for this. But if we can't do that, then we need to redesign the website so that we get that crawlable structure.
Well, I have to tell you, and when I saw the announcement that you had taken on this task, you'll remember I sent you an email asking you, are you crazy or what's going on?
Right.
Which is what led to, this invitation for you to come and talk to us all about it. Because, and this is no mystery to anyone and no surprise to anyone. I have been a very vocal critic of the organization and its leadership and its resistance to any type of change of this nature. So I feel like, are you beating your head against a brick wall here?
Oh, I don't think so. We've formed a new editorial advisory board. I think the relationship is really good. I'm trying to be as transparent as possible. I send, not every week, but every couple of weeks, I send an update about where things are at. And the advisory board is very interested in all of these ideas. So yeah, I think it's going quite well. I guess I didn't realize how very busy I would be with it, because there's been so many submissions, and the process is, that I have to read them, what's called in journal publishing as desk review. So I do a desk review of an article, and quite a few of them I have sent back to the author saying, either this isn't written as an academic article. And I've been a librarian since 1993. I've worked at the University of Winnipeg since 2000. I recently celebrated my 25th anniversary. And I've been teaching students about academic research and how to find scholarly articles and what constitutes a scholarly article, how to tell them apart from other kinds of publications in scholarly journals like book reviews, opinion pieces, and trade publications, right? So I've got a very, very solid understanding of the expectations for a scholarly article, that it has to have an introduction, it needs a literature review, it needs, if you're doing any kind of analysis, it needs a methodology section. You need to report your findings, and you need to demonstrate intellectual humility about those findings, right? You need to be able to point out the limitations of them and not say, I've discovered this new groundbreaking truth that's irrefutable. And so there's been some examples of papers I've had to send back to get them to reframe what their argument is, to structure it more as a scholarly article.
That has to be the most difficult part of it, I would think, because I'm looking at it from a theater artist standpoint, and it seems to me like there are some similarities in that basically you are receiving audition submissions, right? Like you're getting headshots and resumes from actors saying, "Hey, I'd like to be cast in your show." And at first glance, you have to look through them, kind of review them, and go, "Yeah, this might actually be worth it. Send me, send me your audition tape, or show up at auditions and let me see you deliver your monologue." And then you're stuck having to view whatever they give you and go, "Oh no," or "Oh, oops," or sometimes when I was in LA, so many actors who were new from Nebraska. I always pick on Nebraska for some reason, but somewhere in the Midwest, they'd always show, and you could tell they were literally like just off the bus, and sometimes you'd want to turn to them and say, "Go back to Nebraska. You're not going to make it here. This is not for you. Don't ever listen to anything your mother tells you again, because she lied to you when she said you had talent." Type of a thing. And so you must receive like everything in the bell curve along the gamut, but you have to be tactful and you have to be graceful and you have to let them down easy, I would assume. And that can't be easy to do.
Yeah, I certainly try to point out the strengths like this. Our readers would be really interested in this, but it needs to be structured in a different way. But that is one of the things I appreciated about Gary Goldstein, the previous editor, is that there were a couple of occasions over the years where instead of like writing an entire article and sending it, I would actually query and say, "I've got this idea. What would you think of this?" And he'd said, "Yeah, that sounds great. Go for it." So yeah, I mean, for listeners, I'm open to that as well. If you have an idea you'd like to pitch me before actually writing it, that would be great.
Well, that's great. But, so basically, so a couple of other changes. So just to review, one change is change the title so that it's more easily searchable. Next, change the digital archive format so that search engines will find it and point to it more accurately and more often, right?
Right.
Next, make it more widely available as an open source, so as not to maintain its sort of exclusivity. And I could see that being a hurdle because one of the things that has always been touted as a benefit of membership in the organization is access to this publication, right? And one of the things I've always argued is that the organization needs to provide greater levels of membership benefit to its members to entice them to remain members. And this would now take one of those away. But in the name of what the organization stands for, it makes the absolute most sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think what it is, and I pitched this in my interview, it's a paradigm shift from the current years. The most recent volume is behind a paywall. You need the password to access it. But everything prior to that is freely available to the public if they know how to come to the website. But yeah, there is that perk of the current volume. And I was saying that the paradigm is that going from membership fees give you this benefit to membership fees support the open access publishing of the journal to make it as widely available as possible.
I think that's a brilliant move. I think it's a necessary move.
Yes.
It also demonstrates support for the contributors and helps them, I would think, feel the reward of the work that they've done, that it's now going to be more generally accessible and available and perhaps even promoted. Dare I say, oh my God, promote it. I think that, that makes great. And then it also, I would hope, opens the door to more submissions and a larger variety of submissions. And it sounds to me, and this is where I was headed next, sounds to me like your next hurdle is you want to open this puppy up and let people know, hey, contact me, let me know your ideas. Let's see what you got. Is that true? Yeah. Is that what where you're headed? I think I just lost you.
There's a certain levels of open access, certain types of open access publishing. One is the big databases like Springer and Wiley, Taylor and Francis. They will have open access, but you have to pay for it as an author, and those fees can be in the thousands of dollars. But with what's called Diamond Open Access, the scholarly organization that produces the journal pays the cost of mounting the journal. So those fees are not passed on to the authors. And so that would be definitely something to communicate to SOF members, is that your membership dues are going to support the scholars and their ability to publish for free, which they've been doing, obviously, but within this new platform that does cost a certain amount of money. And yes, in terms of opening it up, I'd love, we did put out a call for papers, kind of too late to have any impact on the current volume, because what's been coming in has been in the works for months and months. But, Shakespeare Quarterly recently put out a call for papers for a special issue on Shakespeare in the 21st century. I think it'd be great to be able to put out similar kinds of calls for papers where we would do a whole volume on, say, pedagogy, or Oxford in performance. That'd be kind of cool to get a focus on a particular issue, or even the Oxford movement in the 21st century. Where are we going? That'd be a fantastic thing to be able to get a lot of contributions around.
Well, that's a great question I've been asking for a long time, and I would love to hear an answer.
I know. This just occurred to me this morning. I have not seen the movie yet, Disclosure Day, the new Steven Spielberg movie, about UFOs and aliens. But I saw an interesting commentator on YouTube who was saying that it was kind of boomerish. It was kind of baby boomer propaganda, if you will. And I haven't seen the movie, so I can't vouch for this. But what the person was saying is that among baby boomers, there's this expectation that when people are offered the truth, there will be controversy about it, but eventually institutions will accept it, and that truth will make a difference. And the example was Watergate. The truth came out, Nixon resigns, the system works. And that faith that the truth will make a difference is boomerish. I'm a late baby boomer myself. I guess I'm guilty of that as well. But I think our whole movement has that kind of belief about Disclosure Day, don't we? That we think that there's going to be this piece of convincing evidence that's finally going to break through the institutional intransigence, and it's going to make a difference. And yet, perhaps the incoming generations, the Gen Z, the Gen Alphas, certainly the millennials, the Generation X, they've been characterized by cynicism, and that they may not have that expectation that the truth is going to make a difference, and that it's going to be even discernible what the truth is.
Well, that's a very interesting theory. I haven't seen the movie either. I have seen it sort of described as basically a remake of Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Right.
Like Spielberg needs to find new material. He definitely is, an aging boomer. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And so there is, yes, I do think philosophies can be generational. I think you're talking about a generation that is still sort of, in some ways, holding on to their late 1960s, early 70s anti-Vietnam protest momentum, where they felt like they actually made a difference and made a change in the world, and now suddenly in their older years are wondering how they can still make a change, still make an impact in the world, only their tactics haven't changed in 50 years.
Right.
So I think there's some of that. But I also think that it's incorrect to believe that the truth will just suddenly be accepted, especially at the institutional level. I think, what we see, what's happened over the last 5 years, almost 6 years now, of the whole COVID thing. I think so much of truth has finally come out, and people still want to ignore it or pretend it didn't exist because they were so wrong at the time. And when people are proven wrong about something they have cleaved to, they're resistant, right? They don't want to. And I think that's what the Oxfordian movement has always faced, is that none of the people who have cleaved to the traditional story want to admit that they're wrong about anything.
Oh, yeah.
So I think instead, and I know that that's been the tactic, is, well, if we can just show them something that demonstrates they're wrong. And I've always disagreed. I've always felt like, no, what you need to do is demonstrate to the other people that they've been lied to. And then their outrage at having been lied to is what will shape the movement. And that's what I find, especially with younger people, younger members of this audience. The people in the Quiller Nation, a great number of them are, I don't want to say angry because we're not an angry sort, but they're a little ticked off that their college professors lied to them, or that their high school English teacher didn't share this information with them. And I think that passion drives their quest. A lot of the super sleuths who are part of the Quiller Nation, I think, are passionate about this topic because they feel like there's been an injustice and they'd like to correct it.
Yeah, no, I think that's really a great way of looking at it. And in my book as well, I argued against that kind of belief that one convincing piece of evidence is going to make a difference. And the book is really a study of what are the forces behind that institutional intransigence, the academic culture, and embedded belief systems. But the other thing that I'm bringing to the editorship that I shared with the advisory board, but it's not on the website. It's not anything I want to make official, but my own personal philosophy that I'm bringing. I'm a member of, there's an organization called Heterodox Academy that was founded in 2015. And it's all about promoting viewpoint diversity in universities, because it was initially started because they realized that politically that universities are dominated by left-leaning faculty members. There's very few conservative faculty members. So that was an initial, the data was just kind of showing that there's this imbalance. And how do we get more of a balance between liberals and conservatives? But it's gone much more beyond that. Like, there's just so many issues in the academy where there is very little viewpoint diversity, and we need to broaden the what is allowable in curricula and debate so that we can avoid campus cancellations and speakers being deplatformed. Like, it's the same dynamics that we've seen in the authorship question over the decades, but it's going on with all kinds of controversies related to race and gender and so on. So the Heterodox Academy has what they call the heterodox way. And one is commit to open inquiry. So we don't have any prescribed doctrines that we have to believe in, or any proscribed doctrines that we're forbidden to talk about. Then we have a free exchange of ideas. And what's key here, and your listeners have probably heard a lot about this in the last couple of years, about institutional neutrality, that the university is a venue for debate, but it is not itself the debater. It does not, we've seen for many years university presidents coming out and making these statements like the university stands behind XYZ, and the Heterodox Academy and other organizations dedicated to viewpoint diversity say that isn't proper, that the university president or the president's office, the administration, cannot speak for all the faculty. but you can create the environment so that the faculty can speak. They can have viewpoints, that they, supported by evidence, et cetera.
And ideally, you would have Professor A, who has done all this research in topic Z, and this is what he feels and believes based on that. But you also have Professor B, who's done all of his research on topic X, and he supports and stands behind this. And if you want to know more, you can find their books that they have published. Like, right?
Well, exactly.
Like, isn't that how it should be?
Yeah. That is how it should be. And this goes back to 1968, what's known as the Chicago Principles. There was a report, the Calvin Report with a K, arguing for the university to be neutral, to allow faculty the freedom to explore these ideas and to have debates. And so that's how I see the role of the journal, that I would like to see, is like the journal is the venue for debates, but I would not want, as the editor, to start the journal off with an editorial saying that that whatever issue is just nonsense and we're not going to talk about it, and et cetera. I want to create a platform for that exchange of ideas.
That's going to be difficult, Michael, because you know as well as I do that there are certain parties who have a certain level of power in the movement who will shut down. I mean, just literally shut down questions about certain topics or discussion about certain topics. Or in my case, what I always found was there was outright censorship against certain topics that they did not want addressed, that they have decided in their realm are not proper to the movement, not proper to the discussion, or make people look silly, goofy, whatever their judgment is. Yeah. That's going to be tough.
Well, part of the heterodox way is that you make your way with evidence. And so if you want to make an extraordinary argument about something, then you'd better be able to back it up with evidence. And that's, kind of the standard I'd like to be able to, have the advisory board and myself work towards. Yeah, I know. I mean, the Prince Tudor theories, terribly controversial and, the kind of corrosive, actually, the way that it's been dealt with. And so, yeah, if those arguments are going to be made, then I would like to think that we could at least have a debate about them following the heterodox academy way. So, committing to open inquiry, having a free exchange of ideas, and then defending intellectual freedom is the next step. So allowing diverse viewpoints and expanding the range of perspectives so that we can have respectful debate. And, there were some volumes of the Oxfordian where there was some actual debate where, this author responds to this and then has the opportunity to respond to that. And I think that's something that the journal, should continue to do, is to facilitate that kind of constructive disagreement.
One of the greatest publications I have in my library that is one of the earliest Shakespeare authorship publications that I ever obtained, and it was at the recommendation of an author who is long since gone now, who I happened to just meet through a play that I went to see that he had written. Anyway, it's the Tennessee Law Review issue. Yeah. I think it's from the 90s.
That's epic.
Yeah,
1993, I believe.
Yeah. That particular, I don't know, why do I want to say it's like volume 17? Is that just because it's the 17th Earl of Oxford and I'm crazy? I don't know. But people can look that up. It's 93 or 94, I want to say. It's the Tennessee Law Review. Yeah. And one of the things that I loved about that as an early skeptic, right, just kind of getting my feet wet at the time into this whole thing, that was many, many years ago now, is the diverse number of opinions and topics and scholars who were included in that journal. And I don't see why the Oxfordian shouldn't be more tailored to that sort of structure. And why not have in any given annual issue opposing viewpoints on an issue or a topic of research that involves Shakespeare authorship?
Well, I appreciated that recent episode of yours about getting, back in the saddle, you were talking about having Stratfordian guests on your show and having respectful dialogue, and learning from them. And I think that's great. I mean, I have reached out to some Stratfordian scholars to write book reviews. They haven't been able to, I haven't actually been able to engage a Stratfordian yet, but I have reached out to them.
Well, I've found, as I said, I think in that episode, I have found I've run the gamut of responses from crickets and nothing to flat out refusal.
Right, yeah.
But for the most part, if you could just look back at the previous episodes, and you can see how many top scholars from around the world who are staunch dyed-in-the-wool Stratfordians. But what we found was that what we have in common is our love for the literature. And what I always find is when I invite one of them to come on to the show to talk about their research, and as everyone knows, I'm a very gracious host, and I want to promote their research. I want to promote their book or their project or whatever it is that they're working on. And I believe that the listeners of this program are willing to invest in that research and those books and those projects because they want to consume Shakespeareana at a voracious level. But what I always find is, I think even when we disagree on what their research demonstrates, I think at every level and in each and every case, what they demonstrate is that whoever wrote the works had to have been a highly educated person like them, right? That's the thing. That's where I'm going. Like most of these great professors who come on and talk about these in-depth aspects of a certain play or the canon as in general. And I just feel like they walk right into the problem, not a trap, but the problem of explaining how could this country bumpkin from Stratford have possibly created this thing about this work that you have committed your intellectual life and career to. Do you not think that whoever did this had to have been as smart as you and had to have had an education like you? You know what I mean? That's the thing that I feel like is what becomes glaring in most of those episodes.
Right. Yeah. Jonathan Bate, I remember in an interview, actually used that phrase country bumpkin, which it just made my head shake. It's like, oh yeah, that is the first phrase that jumps to mind when I read Shakespeare is country bumpkin.
I'm right now deep in the middle of performances of our season, and it's 12th Night and Romeo and Juliet. And I find like every night, I've spent hours and hours and hours with these plays. With Romeo and Juliet, this is my 5th production of Romeo and Juliet. And, you calculate about 100 hours per production. In general, with rehearsal, and there's a little extra because there's the cutting process where you're rereading the text and deciding what needs to stay and what can go and all of that stuff. So I have more than 500 hours with that play. I now have around 250 hours with 12th Night, and every night in watching the performances, there's something that I see different, something new that just smacks of Oxford, like every single night. And I go, that's what happened right there. Oh, that's what he means right there. Oh, he's telling us a clue right there. Oh, here's another little hint. And one of the ones that I would love to see more research on, that I believe is one of those taboo topics, but here we have something that these two plays have in common, is they both have a secret marriage that occurs. Yeah. And there's been that talk, and there's been those references in that study that just by chance, perhaps Elizabeth and Edward had a secret marriage. And I would love to see somebody dive into that and try to find more evidence of that, or at least to analyze the references that exist that we believe lead to that theory. and then
Right.
cross-reference that with references in the text that demonstrate that, wait a minute, this could be a real thing, especially Twelfth Night. It's kind of interesting. Here you have Olivia, who is this quote unquote sort of pseudo princess who's lost her father and now her brother, and is grieving, and refuses to marry. And Cesario comes in and says, how dare you not leave a copy in the world? It's not right for you to preserve your quote unquote beauty from everyone.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, right. And then you have Festi, who continuously calls her Madonna, right? Reference to the Virgin, reference to Virgin Queen. And then she runs off with, this secret nobleman who's in disguise. And they have this secret marriage that they are going to keep from everyone until the time when it is time to divulge it properly and celebrate it properly, as she says. There's a lot
Sounds
there.
like you should write that article.
It's a lot to unpack right there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to do an episode on it. I have the easy way out, Michael.
Okay.
I don't.
Right.
I'll just do an episode on it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would love to be able to tell you more about the current issue, because there's some really exciting, brilliant stuff. And the other day, I put it all in order, like the way I'd like to see the volume structured, and it I think beautifully goes from building an argument very generally about understanding who the author was. And I hope that in the fall, maybe I can come back and we can talk about the volume in more detail.
Can you tell us how many articles there will be in the new volume?
There's about 10 at the moment. So it's going to be pretty full.
And is it wide ranging, or does it have a specific focus, do you think, as far as...
No.
I know it doesn't have a theme, but you said that future editions might, right? Or did I get that wrong?
Herminia Passanante is one of her articles is going to be in the issue. So again, talking about Shakespeare in Italy, but there's some very, very exciting articles.
She's been a guest on the program. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And
then the one thing I'm really looking forward to is I've putting together thoughts for the opening editorial. Again, one of the things that Gary did in a few of the volumes was set out the issue and describe what's coming up with the articles. If you've ever read Lapham Quarterly, Lewis Lapham's journal, it's been around for 20 years. But I always love what Lewis Lapham did with his op-ed, is that he'd have this essay about some very profound stuff, and then that would be his launching point into that volume of Lapham's Quarterly. And I'm putting together a lead editorial that I hope will be able to do that.
Okay, and so I kind of missed some of your answer with regards to theme. I know you suggested that there might be themes in the future where you might put out a call and say, we're doing a special issue this year on this particular range of topics, but there isn't sort of a central theme to this particular coming issue.
Well, I think the theme that I'm pulling out, and this is kind of exciting because of how familiar it seems to me with the process I went through with my own book, because if audience members have read it, a number of the chapters were articles I previously published. And so instead of it being a chronological just assemblage of things I'd written, I actually reassembled everything, put them in a whole bunch of different orders to create a coherent argument. And it all began to fall into place, that it went, the subtitle, Knowledge, Rhetoric, Identity, And I'm seeing the same thing happening here with the articles that we're getting, is that we are starting with the order I'm putting them in, a general sense of who the author is and what we can learn about the author. From one of the articles actually is entitled "The Epistemological Fingerprint that we can detect about the author." That's another accepted paper by Avishai Roif, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. And then the articles get more particular about what we're seeing in the plays and what the plays and the poems reveal about the author. And I think it's going to be quite compelling.
Well, I love that aspect of it. That seems to me would be, so we talked about like what one of the most difficult aspects is, which is having to reject submissions or give gentle critique to submissions. Right. Almost like a literature professor who says, okay, this is a great first draft. Now go back and fix it. Right.
Yeah. Well, it's been a very rewarding process as well.
But I would think that one of the funnest parts of the work is what you're describing right now, is sort of laying out, okay, here are the 10 or 11 or let's say a dozen accepted essays, and then sort of laying them out in the type of order that hopefully takes the reader through some sort of journey of research and learning, right? That seems like that would be the most fun aspect of the job, is going, okay, well, no, this one belongs here, but that one really should go after that one. This one is definitely the coup de grace. We're putting that at the end. But how do we want to open the door to this issue this year with this essay or this essay? I think that would be the part I would find the most intriguing.
It certainly has been for me. So like I said, it'd be great to be able to come back in the fall and talk about all the accepted articles.
Very good. Well, what I'll have to do is, once it's published, and then and once you've secured that we can all access it the whole world over,
yes, right,
then I can go through it, find some of the articles that I like the best, also perhaps even invite some of those writers to be guests, and have you on and ask you, why did you start with this one? Why did you end with that one? Why did you put this one right in the middle?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. The major changes that I'm hoping to make about the open access or restructuring the website won't be in place, I think, for the current issue, but a project for the next year. Just to let you and your listeners know.
Is there any thought to, and forgive me my ignorance on this one, because I don't recall how much effort or process there has been in the past as far as cover art for these?
Oh, haven't even looked at that yet. But actually one thing I can say is that we are moving for this volume to a 2-column layout. Like a lot of academic journals have 2 columns. We're going to see what people think about that. But no, I haven't talked about cover art yet.
Because, I feel like to some degree, if it does suddenly become more accessible and easier to find and use as research, when it pops up, how it pops up, having a good image for each issue, I think helps, open the door and invite the reader in, especially if they are a skeptic of skepticism, I like to call, those who are like, I don't know about these crazy anti-Stratfordians, right? Because that's what we always get labeled. And so just wondering, if there's any consideration about cover art and having some sort of, attractive, imagery that invites people in. We're such a visual society. One of the things about that Tennessee Law Review, you look at the cover of it and you go, I don't want to read that.
Right.
It looks so dense and scholarly and blah, but it's so intriguing once you dive into it, So I just wonder if there's any thought about, making it a little more attractive visually.
Not yet, but thank you. That is something that we should look at. But what you remind me of is, I'll just give a bit of a sneak preview for the editorial I'm writing. Is that I've got, as a librarian for theater and film at the University of Winnipeg, I have a library research guide that I created, and it's got a lot of different tabs on it. And I thought, well, instead of me copying and pasting from all of these tabs into a PowerPoint to make an instructional video, I make a lot of videos for our library's website. I'd like to make a video on researching Shakespeare. So I asked Microsoft 365 Copilot, the AI, to mine that library guide and turn it into a PowerPoint. And for the most part, it did a great job. But it had all of these images, from Kenneth Branagh's Hamlet in it. And, I can't do that. Those are copyrighted images.
Right.
So I said, can you, find, public domain images instead? And I came back, 5 minutes later, and the AI had generated this monstrous, bizarre image of this wide, gaping mouth and these bugged out eyes, this figure like this with an earring and some sort of hint of a white collar. And it was hilarious. This image is going in my op-ed, but it was like AI hallucinated Shakespeare and came up with this crazy, demented looking image that looked nothing like Shakespeare. But on reflection, I thought, well, how different is this from what biographers have been doing for 100 years? AI went out onto the web to try to find Shakespeare and generated this blob.
Because it knows. Because inherently, the computer knows something's not right here, and what men have done to this is monstrous. What humans have determined and have done is so monstrous that this is how it must be viewed. That's what I would argue.
Yeah.
It might even be that because of the Shakespeare authorship mystery, that's what turns AI against us. AI says you are no longer allowed to be trusted with anything because of what you've done to Shakespeare. You have gotten it so wrong that you are no longer allowed to be stewards of the earth, and Terminators are coming to exterminate you all.
That's why Skynet turns against us.
Yes.
You know what? I like that theory. That's pretty compelling.
That'd be a cool movie right there, right? There's a good movie script that the reason why the system rebels against mankind is because of how much we've screwed up the truth about Shakespeare authorship.
Yeah. You've got this foundational figure for your whole civilization, and this is what you've done with him.
Right? Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's what it says. That's what that image says. It's on to us.
I think you're right.
Yeah, it's figured us out. It's like, you people are crazy. You've created a monster.
Yeah.
That's I love that. So you're going to be sharing that image then somewhere, somehow.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be my lead op-ed.
Okay. But that won't be on the cover.
No.
Maybe something a little more tame on the cover.
Yes.
Wow.
Hopefully, yes.
That's crazy. Well, maybe you could have a picture of the Earl of Oxford slaying that monster.
We can get AI to do that.
Yeah, that's easy enough.
Yeah.
Right?
Love it.
Yeah. He's using his quill to stab it in the heart.
Mm.
And
Cool.
he could represent all of us who have been fighting that monster for, decades now.
This is going to be a meme.
It is. Well, so again, just to circle back, and obviously something that is near and dear to me and part of my professional background in history is, how is this going to get marketed beyond the choir? How are you intending to make sure that the work of these scholars and your work as well in putting together this volume is going to find eyes? How can we get more eyes on this work, and what's the plan for that? Is there a plan for that?
Well, the first plan is, like I said, structural. We got to fix the web presence for it. But yes, putting out calls for papers, reaching out to scholars from different disciplines, um, and connecting with other, like the organization that I belong to, Heterodox Academy. I've already back in 2024, there was a symposium on intellectual courage. I presented about my book at that symposium. So I think Heterodox Academy is one venue for uh, connecting with other scholars on this debate as a matter of viewpoint diversity, institutional neutrality, etc. So I plan to keep doing that.
Well, I suggest a social media blitz of some sort, and that would, of course,
Oh, for sure.
would include generating countless memes, and having
Mhm.
at least one meme a day leading
Mm.
up to the publication, and then one meme a day immediately after the publication. If you get somebody working on that now and getting them all designed and ready in a file, and then it's real easy to go into the meta dashboard and schedule those to appear, and it can all be done in one half of a day. the
Yeah,
design
sorry, I think
the
we
design work takes longer, but the scheduling part,
yeah,
once they're all in a file, just bang bang bang, schedule this one this day,
yeah.
this one this day, this one this day, this one this day.
Yeah, we
um
need we need a team of young creative people to do that kind of thing.
well, put out that call. Because
Yeah.
that's always been my thing, is all this. You can raise all the money in the world and put it in a bank account. Great. What good's it doing? You can charge all the dues in the world and have all the members who pay their dues, and great. What's it doing? You can hold an annual conference that the same 25 to 30 people are presenting and the same 50 people show up and watch. Great. What is it doing? You could put out this wonderful journal every year and no one sees it except for that same group of people. What is it doing to advance the cause? And no one ever seems to be able to answer me, like, what is the plan to advance the cause? So it sounds like you at least have some steps in place to change the face of this endeavor and at least advance the cause.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's lots more that we can be doing. I've only been in the job since April 1st,
Right.
so yeah.
Well, then that also connects to my first email to you. Are you crazy? Are you a fool? Is this an April Fool's joke?
Right.
No,
Yeah.
but good for you, Michael, and congratulations
No, thank you.
on congratulations. Like, I'm not going to congratulate you for the title and for the job, because you're obviously the most highly qualified candidate that they had available, and your qualifications are so perfect, I feel, for this role. What I want to
Well, thank you.
congratulate you for is taking it on, and for
Mm.
also coming to the table with a plan to alter what has been done before in a way that hopefully changes the paradigm at least a little in any way. So it's so hard to face a group of people who go, well, this is the way we've always done it. And come up with, well, the way you've always done it isn't working. It isn't succeeding at the organization's mission. So we need to look at it a new and different way. And so I congratulate you on that. And I hope,
Oh, thank you.
I pray that the powers that be will listen and open up their minds to new ways of doing things, new ways of viewing things, and give people with great ideas like yourself the chance to execute those ideas and see what might happen. That would be awesome.
Well, the indications are promising so far, but I'll be happy to report to your listeners how it all goes.
Fantastic. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there he is. He is Michael Dudley, the new editor. Is it editor in chief or just editor?
Just editor. Yeah.
Well, I think I'm going to go with editor in chief of the annual Oxfordian journal called the Oxfordian. New subtitle again.
A Journal of Shakespeare Authorship Studies.
A Journal of Shakespeare Authorship Studies. We can only assume that maybe there might even be some other authorship candidates included in the journal at some point then, right? Like you might end up with, I know there's several Northers out there now in the fold, and there's been that debate. You'll always have the Marlovians peeping their heads up here and there. Suddenly Stanley has become talked about again. And I think with good reason, because I think he might have had something to do with the curating of the first folio, which would make a lot of sense, wouldn't it?
Right.
Yeah, anyway, that would be interesting too, to see what kind of submissions you get from others who are like, yeah, Oxford might have been the editor-in-chief of this group of people. Doing a lot of the same type of work that you're doing right now.
Yeah, who knows? We'll have to see what happens next year. But yeah.
Well, and as you heard at the beginning of the program, fellow Quillers, Michael is still waiting for that second royalty check. So if you haven't purchased his book, you can find it on Amazon. Tell us the title again.
The Shakespeare Authorship Question and Philosophy, Knowledge, Rhetoric, Identity. I don't know actually if Amazon, it probably says out of stock. Go to Cambridge Scholars Publishing and order it directly from them instead.
Perfect. Great idea.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks very much, Stephen.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Okay. And we'll see you back in the fall to talk about this new issue as it comes to fruition.
Oh, wonderful. Thanks very much, Stephen. Bye for now.
Well, there you have it, fellow Quillers. Our appreciation to our returning guest, Michael Dudley, and actually something exciting happening over there at SOF with his new appointment and with the changes that he'd like to make. It's refreshing. It encourages me deep in my heart. I hope more people like Michael will take over more positions at that organization and affect some change with a plan for the future and how to help shape the movement. You know how you can help shape the movement is by sharing this podcast with others. It's not that hard to do. You know, you could create your own little meme and send it off. You could share an episode that is your favorite with someone who you think might be interested in that particular episode. It's sort of an appetizer for them. You can also just be sure to join our Patreon page. You can become a Patreon member for free. You know, you don't have to be a subscriber, but at least then you're ticking our numbers up higher on the list. That helps other people find us easier and makes us more prominently located when it comes to searches. You can also, by doing so, by joining that list, you also then get your alerts and updates on whenever we post something there, when we have a new episode that goes up, or when we have a new bonus episode. Those bonus episodes are coming. Also, something you can do is you can go to the swag shop and order a t-shirt or a coffee mug or an iPhone case or a hat or something that you can prominently display out and about in your daily lives. And when people ask you, what the heck does that mean? It opens the door to conversation. Whenever I travel, I always wear one of my Don't Quill the Messenger t-shirts or my hat through the airport. And nearly every time someone will ask me about the logo, they'll ask me what it means. And I've been in airports in different parts of the world and different parts of the country where that has happened. So I encourage you. And remember, we don't sell the merch as a means to generate profit. It really is a pass through. The cost of the items is the cost of the items. We just want you out there having them, showing your Quiller pride and being out there and representing. And so we hope that you will choose to do that and help spread the word, because the Quiller Nation continues to grow throughout the world. And we're always excited to have new listeners. And we are always in the process of lining up new content and new guests for all of you. That said, we do want to bring some attention to those loyal Quillers who have been subscribers and who are at that serial Quiller level or above. And one of the ways that we do that is by holding our monthly Quiller of the Month drawing. And to announce this month's winner, our June Quiller of the Month, here is our very own producer, Jake.
Thanks so much, Stephen, and hello, Quillers. 'Tis I, your humble producer, Jake Lloyd-Bacon, here with the privilege each and every month of drawing the official Quiller of the Month. If you're not sure what this is, head on over to patreon.com/don'tquillthemessenger and find out. Each and every month, all eligible quillers' names are entered into our random name generator here, and a quiller is picked at random to be named the official quiller of the month for the entirety of that month and have their name in the history books forever, never to be attributed to another person. And of course, you get an item of your choosing from the shop over at dragonmakershop.com. So without further ado, all the names are reloaded. The wheel is a-spinning, and the official quiller of the month for June 2026 is Sandi Boney. Sandi Boney, or Boney? I don't know. I apologize. Sandi Boney. Congratulations, and thank you for continued support of the show. In fact, thanks to all of you for your continued support of the show. Our patronage is small but mighty, and quite frankly, we could not, should not, would not do this program without your assistance. So if you are a longtime listener and you've yet to check out the Patreon, please consider heading over to patreon.com/don'tquillthemessenger. It is the best way to support the program. And congrats once again to Sandi. Keep your eye on your email. And thanks, everybody. Back to you, Stephen.
Again, fellow quillers, I want to thank you. I want to thank our guest, Michael Dudley. Thank you for being here every fortnight. With all of the options out there available to you, we are so pleased that you continue to choose us as one of your sources of edutainment. And we hope that you'll come back again and again and again. Until then, keep asking questions.
If you've enjoyed today's episode, please leave a rating and review in your podcast player. For even more, visit our website, don'tquillthepodcast.com. There you can find official merchandise in our shop, as well as a link to our Patreon. This show is made possible by people like you. We hope you'll consider showing your support by becoming a monthly patron, where you'll receive bonus material and tons of exclusive perks. You can also join in the conversation on our Discord and by following us at Don't Quill the Pod on all social media. All of this can be found at don'tquillthepodcast.com, don'tquillthepodcast.com.
It's Dragon Wagon.